So, you know, we had Hillary Clinton down to whatever we wanted to do with her, and I felt it was inappropriate. She's the wife of a president. She was a Secretary of State, and we could have done a very big number.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't want to be doing that. Let's, you know, put it into the country and not the concept of putting her in jail, indicting her, all the things that you have to do. You know, it's tough stuff. And I said, we don't want to do that. In fact, you remember I made speeches when I mentioned her name. They started lock her up. Yeah. And I said, no, this is after we won. We just won. And I said,
you wanted the country
we have
to
to
heal.
get back to, we want to heal. And yet they did it to me.
Yeah.
So I feel differently. I mean, I'm a human being. I have my feelings too. And so I feel differently about it. Obama, what he did was terrible. What Brennan did and Clapper and Comey and all these lightweights, I mean, they're stupid people actually, but what they did and so unnecessary. And they made it really hard. But ultimately, I don't know, they toughen you up. You either learn that you can do that. How many people could handle that?
Yeah.
I've had so many people said, how did you handle that every day? And they come up with these different scams. They're all scams and they're still doing it. You know, they're doing it now.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. D&I Gabbard has made referrals. And why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word.
If you were among she was about to say treason, you know exactly what she was about to say. If you're among the tens of millions of Americans who for years have been wondering if we would ever see Hillary Clinton in handcuffs, the moment you've all been waiting for appears to have arrived. What you just heard President Trump say there is being echoed by more and more federal officials, and it's sending shockwaves throughout the D.C. swamp. We're going to find out precisely what the Justice Department and FBI are doing as we speak. We're going to find out what it means for criminal charges against Hillary Clinton and the rest of her corrupt ilk, and why the justice and accountability that we all voted for in November has finally and decisively arrived. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. It is I, Dr. Steve, live stream Friday, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness as the radical left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable, the inevitable rise of a new conservative age all over the world. So if you want a front row seat on how you are changing the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss a single episode here. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments or questions. It will be my privilege to read them and answer them for everyone here on this live broadcast. Also, we've got an event coming up here on this channel I think you're going to love. You all know I just published my brand new book, America Awaken. Where are you? I got one right here. America Awaken, The Collapse of Globalism and the Return to Faith, Family, and Freedom. Thanks to you, it's #1 on Amazon in a number of different categories. We're doing a live America Awaken Masterclass, and it's now open for registrations. It's normally $300 to register, but you can, as of today, get an early bird discount of just $75 to register. So if you're part of the Courageous Patriot Club, you get even sweeter deal. So just click on that link below to take advantage of this early bird discount today. And lastly, I do want to give a huge shout out to one of the sponsors of today's live stream, and that's our good friends over at Black Trust IRA at TurleyTalksCrypto.com. Now, if you've been wanting to get into crypto investing, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and the like, but you've always been turned off or intimidated by the volatility, meet your knight in shining armor. Block Trust IRA has a super AI system that Bitcoin Magazine is named the #1 crypto technology platform in the world among 1,500 global competitors. And what that super AI does is it works 24/7 to analyze global market data and predicts with uncanny accuracy the highs and the lows of crypto volatility. So Block Trust IRA will then sell at the highs and then buy again at the lows, which mitigates the volatility, all the while you stand to make incredible gains. That's why I'm a proud client of Block Trust IRA. I've got my own account with them, and I absolutely love them. Their mission perfectly aligns with President Trump's Make America Great Again agenda, smashing down the barriers between loyal patriots and the financial freedom that we all deserve, helping true Americans build impressive wealth in Trump's historic economic boom. So whether you're a teacher, a truck driver, small business owner, or a retiree, this is your chance to get into the crypto market with AI mitigating your volatility risk. So what are you waiting for? Click on that link below or visit turleytalkscrypto.com and find out how they can help you join the Trump financial revolution that's finally given forgotten Americans access to the greatest crypto wealth opportunity in history. And the best part, for a limited time, they're offering my viewers up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open up an account with them. This is amazing. I do not wait on this. Crypto created 80,000 new millionaires last year. Why not you next? Visit turleytalkscrypto.com. That is turleytalkscrypto.com. 3 days ago, something absolutely unprecedented happened. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley released what's being called the Durham Annex. It's the classified appendix to John Durham's 2023 special counsel report. But here's what makes this so absolutely explosive. FBI Director Kash Patel found these documents that have just been declassified. He found these documents in what's called a burn bag in a secret room at the FBI headquarters. Now, if you don't know, a burn bag is exactly what it sounds like. It's a specialized bag used by the FBI for the secure disposal of classified documents. It's designed to be incinerated, so destroying the contents and preventing unauthorized access to sensitive information. So what we're about to see here is something that FBI officials did not want any human eye to see. And as it turns out, for darn good reason. What they revealed is stunning. These documents contain previously classified intelligence from January and March of 2016 that the Obama administration had obtained, which conclusively showed that Hillary Clinton's campaign planned to falsely tie President Trump to Russia. So this is absolutely key to get in putting all of this together, and that's what we're going to do in this live stream. Make sure you have all the information you need to be able to share it with others who may still be on the fence with this stuff. But this is absolutely key to get because it all starts with this. The beginning point in all of this is exactly what these classified documents show, is that the Obama White House knew, this is key, they knew in 2016, they were informed by their own intelligence agencies that the Hillary Clinton campaign was going all out in fabricating a fraud against then Republican presidential candidate Donald J. Trump. The Obama White House knew that. Now, why, you may ask? Why was Clinton so intent on fabricating this fraud? And again, the answer here is rather simple, and it just so happens that that answer was provided by one of the newly declassified documents. In an email between a fellow by the name of Leonard Bernardo, who we did a video on this yesterday. He is the head of Soros's Open Societies Foundations. Yes, you can't make this up. George Soros is at the center of this. So this guy, Leonard Bernardo, sent an email to DNC chair at the time, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They openly discussed their plan to tie President Trump to Russia as a way to distract voters from Hillary Clinton's email server scandal. The email, as you see it right there, you can read it yourself. The email explicitly states that the hoax, quote, should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. And so this is the email that the Obama White House knew about. They knew that the Clinton campaign had bought and paid for a fraudulent supposed intelligence dossier that was put together by the former British spy and rabid Trump hater Christopher Steele. Notice all the foreigners involved in this, whether it's Soros or Christopher Steele. He's a British agent. And the dossier that he put together, this fake dossier, details supposedly salacious and lurid behavior engaged in by then presidential candidate Trump in Russia, which supposedly Putin was using to blackmail him. Obama knew, this is key, you've got to get this, you got to burn it into your brain. Obama knew that Hillary had greenlit that fraud in order to distract from her own scandal of using her own private email server to house classified national security emails and documents. And then immediately, you will notice something that Obama did not do. Not only did he pressure Comey and the FBI investigation led by that radical anti-Trump Agent Stroke, not only did he pressure them to bury all this with Hillary Clinton, with her email scandal. Not only did he pressure to say, do not indict her, don't go any further. Not only did he do that, but you'll also notice upon hearing of this fraud involving a major nuclear power, Russia, Obama and the FBI knew about this intelligence showing Hillary's plan, and they did absolutely nothing about it. So this is in 2016 during the campaign. They did nothing about it. They didn't shut it down. They didn't investigate it. They didn't alert the press to it. They let it happen. They let it play out. That in and of itself is criminal. You've got to start there. That's your starting point. It's not just a matter of Obama telling Comey, don't indict Hillary, don't take this anywhere, exonerate her, I don't care what you got to do. It's not just that. That's bad enough in of itself. It's that then they turned around and said, and let's just butter the popcorn and watch this fraud play itself out. National security be damned, since it has to do with the biggest nuclear power on the planet. Vilifying them. That in and of itself is a blatant abdication of Obama's law enforcement responsibilities. According to the Durham Annex, when the Obama administration received this intelligence back in March of 2016, FBI personnel, including Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, shared it with high-ranking DOJ officials. The significance was so great that CIA Director John Brennan personally briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, who's probably sleeping, FBI Director Comey, and other senior officials about it on August 3rd, 2016. So there's this whole temporal trail where they repeatedly knew this was happening. But here's the kicker. This literally says it all. While the FBI opened a full investigation into Trump based on uncorroborated intelligence, they, of course, never opened up any type of inquiry into Hillary's plan to thwart his campaign, despite having verified intelligence about it. So you're already seeing sort of this threefold web happening here. As a result of these intelligence briefings and Obama and his team learning about what Hillary had concocted with the Christopher Steele dossier, three things all of a sudden began to merge. Number one, leave her alone. He tells Comey, don't prosecute her, do not pursue charges against her with this email scandal. Just drop it, bury it. Number one. Number two, they're sitting back eating popcorn going, I wonder how this is going to play out. But then as time went on, number three, the FBI got actively involved, not investigating Hillary for deliberately trying to thwart the democratic integrity of a presidential election with this fraud and a possible national security risk, given that it's implicating Russia. They didn't go after her for this intelligence of her actually doing something dubious and illegal. No, instead, they used that dubious illegality to try to further the fraud against Trump and investigate him. This goes way beyond double standards here. And that's, of course, because it was absolutely intentional. Now, let's connect all the dots on how this fabricated intelligence operation actually ended up working, because understanding this process shows you just how sophisticated this conspiracy really was, how intentional it was, and all the various actors involved, including the complicity of the legacy media. That's gigantic. That's huge. By the way, this is why you shouldn't be holding your breath, waiting for the legacy media to admit how wrong they've been over the years, these last 8 years, because it wasn't it wasn't, how do I put this? Their flaw was not factual. Their flaw was moral. They were wrong because they were intentionally wrong. They were wrong because they were complicit in all of this, as we'll see. So they're not going to correct themselves. There is nothing to correct when you are morally flawed, as it were. So let's connect the dots. It's fourfold. So if you're taking notes here, if you just want to make sure you're getting the complexity of this together, it's fourfold structure to this whole thing. First and foremost, Hillary's campaign and the DNC funded this Steel Dossier, the fake dossier created by Christopher Steele through the law firm Perkins Coie with the opposition research firm Fusion GPS. The law firm was very important because that provided the veneer of attorney-client privilege. So whatever they spent money on or whatever, they could hide behind attorney-client privilege. So that's how Perkins Coie basically became a front for this laundering operation. So the dossier, the fake dossier, contained completely fraudulent, unverified allegations about Trump and Russia. So that's where it starts. Then secondly, as we now know from these declassified documents, Hillary's team coordinated with George Soros's organization, Open Society Foundations, to push the Trump-Russia narrative through FBI-affiliated companies like CrowdStrike and major media outlets. So that's what you saw communicated in that Soros-linked email that I read to you earlier. From the very beginning of this, they planned on using an FBI-affiliated cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike to add credibility to their claims about Russian collusion. CrowdStrike would provide sort of the cybersecurity bona fides to these claims, to this fraud. And then all of their allies in the legacy media who hated Trump and wanted to do everything they possibly could as advocacy journalists to stop him, they fully cooperated with the Clinton campaign to publish all these salacious lies. But then all of this turned radically sinister. Remember, in the original email, it was just declassified from this Soros operative. He said that this fabrication was going to go through the FBI itself. The FBI would be weaponized deliberately against the Trump campaign in a deliberate attempt to thwart it, to interfere in the democratic integrity of a presidential election. And so that is when the FBI used this Clinton-funded Steel Dossier to obtain FISA warrants to spy on the Trump campaign, and particularly the Trump campaign associate Carter Page. They did this despite knowing that Hillary's campaign had created a plan to tie Trump to Russia. They knowingly used this fraudulent dossier as their basis to obtain a FISA warrant to surveil the Trump campaign. The FISA judges, in fairness, the ones who signed off on the warrants, they had no idea, to my knowledge, they had no idea that the dossier was a fraud. But the officials that signed the warrant, Comey, Rosenstein, McCabe, they all signed it and knowingly committed a fraud on a court. And then the CIA director, John Brennan, and James Baker, and James Clapper, and they intentionally leaked the lies of the dossier to the legacy media to discredit and disgrace Trump before the election. And then the big one, the fourth step in all this. All right, so we got the fake Steel Dossier created, right? Number one. We got the email that detailed how they were going to feed that dossier to the FBI and the sympathetic legacy media. Number two. We've got the FBI using that fake dossier to obtain FISA warrants to spy on Trump, all the while leaking this fraud to the press. Number three. So they're all working together. And now fourth, and this is absolutely crucial, when Trump won the election, President Obama personally ordered a new intelligence assessment that would support the Russia collusion narrative, contradicting months of intelligence reports that said Russia was not trying to influence the election. So this is on December 9th, a month after Trump won the election, just days after receiving an intelligence report that exonerated Russia from election interference. And this intelligence report was corroborated by all intelligence agencies. So we're talking about national security. We're talking about the CIA. We're talking FBI. We're talking Homeland Security. Regardless, Barack Obama, the very next day after receiving that corroborated intelligence report that Russia had no effect on the election whatsoever, Obama held a meeting in the Situation Room in the White House with FBI Director James Comey and Andrew McCabe, the Deputy FBI Director, CIA Director John Brennan, James Clapper, who was then the Director of National Intelligence, John Kerry, Secretary of State, and National Security Advisor Susan Rice. And in that room, they together, along with Obama, made a decision that would poison American politics for years. They decided to go with this. They decided to put this on steroids. They decided to manufacture fake intelligence that directly contradicted their own intelligence experts. This wasn't political spin on how Trump won the election. This was the systematic creation of false intelligence designed to delegitimize a duly elected president. So what's so key here is that this obviously goes way beyond partisan politics. I could care less if they were Democrats or Republicans. What Tulsi and others are exposing here represents a fundamental attack on the democratic process itself. When intelligence agencies manufacture evidence at the order of a president who's about to leave office in a matter of weeks in order to undermine the incoming duly elected president, we're not talking about politics as usual anymore. We're talking about a constitutional crisis. We're talking about, in Tulsi's words, treason. That's the word she used, treasonous behavior on the part of all those involved. But when all is said and done, from December 2016 through January of 2017, Obama's team manufactured a new intelligence assessment claiming Russian interference, which became the foundation for the entire Russian collusion investigation, which our legacy media became obsessed with for the next 3.5 years. And ironically, all of this was the very definition of a conspiracy to thwart a duly elected president, and hence why Tulsi called it treasonous. So now, with all of these bombshells, with these declassified documents, the question is, what's about to happen next? And this is where Trump looks like he is finally about to drop the hammer. And it is Hillary more than anyone else who looks to be the central target. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Let us know what you think by sending us a super chat or by clicking on that link below and joining our Courageous Patriot Club here for just one monthly fee. I'll feature your comments on our broadcast, and you can ask me as many questions as you like. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream, or just send us a super chat, whatever you like. Also, do you ever wonder why your brain feels foggy, right? Even when you're eating clean and exercising? Well, it might not be burnout. It could be, I kid you not, parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald revealed a direct link between chronic parasitic infections and neurological disease like multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. And the wellness company has got you covered. They got a solution for you. Ivermectin plus mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution, now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmicks. All you got to do is just fill out a quick intake form and get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. MAHA is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head on over to twc.health/Turley and use code Turley to save $90 off plus free shipping. Click on that link below and cleanse your body today. All right. So bottom line, this is no longer just a historical scandal. There are active criminal investigations happening right now as we speak. As you heard earlier, CIA Director John Ratcliffe announced that he has made criminal referrals to the Justice Department regarding Hillary Clinton, James Comey, and John Brennan. At the exact same time, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has also made criminal referrals to the Justice Department, releasing evidence showing that Obama administration officials intentionally manufactured intelligence to push the Trump-Russia narrative in a deliberate attempt at sabotaging a duly elected president and thereby thwarting the democratic integrity of a presidential election. Attorney General Pam Bondi has just established what she is calling an official strike force to assess this evidence and investigate potential prosecutions. Now, note, this is not just congressional oversight hearings. I can't stand those anymore. They're so worthless. No, this is the Justice Department actively investigating criminal conduct. I should say potential or alleged criminal conduct. We got to be specific here, right? In addition, FBI Director Kash Patel has opened up official criminal investigations into both Brennan and Comey. So things are indeed moving. The walls are closing in on Clinton, on Brennan, on Comey, on Clapper. This is really happening. Now, I know it's slow. Justice does churn slowly. I know it can get frustrating, but heck, we've been waiting 8 years. What's another couple of months here? Now, let's talk about the charges that they are most likely looking at here. We're talking, obviously, federal felonies of the highest order. So one is there's the charge of the conspiracy to defraud the United States. So this would involve the coordinated effort between Hillary and her campaign, the DNC, George Soros's organization, the Open Societies Foundations, and FBI-affiliated companies to create and spread false intelligence that indeed could constitute a conspiracy to defraud the United States government. That's being talked about. You heard earlier the allegations of false statements to federal investigators. So this involves both Hillary Clinton and people like Jake Sullivan, who testified under oath in Durham's investigation. Clinton testified in 2022. Sullivan testified in earlier proceedings, and their testimony is now directly contradicted by these declassified documents, so showing that they certainly knew about and approved the plan to tie Trump to Russia. Third, there's perjury before Congress. So House Republicans have already referred Hillary Clinton for perjury charges related to her congressional testimony about her emails. So these new documents provide additional evidence that her testimony was false, that she was deliberately trying to cover up the scandal of her emails with this Russian collusion hoax. And then finally, there's, of course, the violation of FISA protocols. So the intentional and deliberate use of what they knew to be fabricated evidence with the Clinton-funded Steel Dossier to obtain FISA warrants while knowing it was all part of a political operation, that it was all fabricated, could constitute abuse. Certainly, it seems to me it obviously constitutes abuse of the surveillance system. And finally, election interference. To me, this is all of this is crazy and insane, but in the end, this was a coordinated effort to spread false information about a presidential candidate using government resources and FBI-affiliated companies to thwart the democratic integrity of a presidential election. It was blatant election interference. Blatant. And that, to me, is the irony. Because if you think it through, that was the very thing they accused Trump of. I mean, you literally cannot make this stuff up. They accused Trump and Putin of interfering with the democratic integrity of a presidential election, all the while they were the ones who were actually conspiring with foreign powers to interfere in the democratic integrity of the election. I mean, reality is stranger than fiction, or at least the fiction that Democrats have attempted to fabricate. And then, of course, we need to talk about how the legacy media is handling this story, because their response really tells you everything you need to know about their complicity in this scandal. And the irony is that this scandal, probably more than anything else, destroyed the legacy media. I mean, they killed themselves in this process. CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, New York Times, Washington Post, they've all either completely ignored these declassified documents, or they've just dismissed them as old news. There's nothing new here, nothing new. We can all move on now. But think about that response. If any of this evidence existed against Trump, how do you think they would have reacted? Take everything that I just laid out for you, step by step by step, but instead of the Obama administration, make it the Trump administration. Make it Trump doing this to Hillary. How would the legacy media be acting right now? It would be front page news for weeks. The New York Times actually went so far as to publish a story claiming that these emails that I just showed you earlier were likely fabricated by Russian operatives. It doesn't end. It doesn't. Yeah, they were likely fabricated. Yeah, by Russian operatives. Yeah, Russia. I mean, it never ends. But here's what they don't tell you in this report. The CIA assessed that these intelligence reports were not Russian fabrications. The U.S. intelligence community considered them authentic. That's what they told Obama. That's what all of our intelligence agencies told him, that these emails, everything, are all authentic. This is Hillary trying to bring down a presidential campaign in the most dishonest way imaginable. And isn't it neat? Isn't it cool? That's what happened. And the reason why the New York Times isn't telling you that is because they were one of the ones celebrating. They loved it. They ate it up. They gave out Pulitzer prizes. They got Pulitzer prizes for reporting on lies as if they were true. Meanwhile, these same legacy media outlets, if you think it through, while they're just dismissing all of this totally legit evidence, these same media outlets, what do they do these last 4 years? Or what do they do the 3.5 years of Trump's presidency? They promoted every aspect of the Russian hoax. They promoted the Steel Dossier. They promoted the Alpha Bank allegations. They promoted the Carter Page FISA warrants. All of which have now been proven to be part of Hillary's political operation. Where was their comparable skepticism then? They could have found this. They could have easily found out this was a fraud. They didn't care. Why? Because the legacy media is the fraud. That's why the legacy media could ultimately be counted on as we saw in that email, to amplify these lies because they are the fraud. They are the single greatest fraud perpetrated upon the American people every single day in our nation. That's why their ratings are in the tank. That's why, according to Gallup polling, the legacy media is seeing its lowest levels of trust and credibility ever in the history of Gallup polling. The selective reporting here is beyond stunning. When the Mueller investigation was ongoing, every single minor development was treated as earth-shattering news. Now we got declassified intelligence proving the entire thing was a political operation, and it gets buried on page 47 or completely ignored or dismissed. The reason why the legacy media could be counted on to perpetuate a fraud is because they are the fraud. So what comes next? Where does this leave us? Clearly, we're looking at the biggest political scandal in American history being actively investigated by the current Justice Department. Attorney General Pam Bondi has made it crystal clear that transparency and accountability are priorities for this Justice Department. The strike force she just established isn't just a PR move. They are actively assessing evidence for potential prosecutions. FBI Director Kash Patel has opened criminal investigations and has stated explicitly that the American people deserve the full, unfiltered truth about the Russian collusion hoax and the political abuse of our justice system that it exposed, and for all the major actors to be brought to accountability. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard continues to declassify documents as we speak, suggesting that there is much more evidence to come. The legal processes are going to take time, but the framework for prosecutions is clearly being established. We're not just talking about political accountability here, like Trey Gowdy wants. There's all kinds of ways. Did you see that loser, that neocon rhino loser on their new Karl Rove? Well, there are all kind of ways of holding them accountable, like, political, or you could socially ostracize them and so forth. You don't have to send them to jail. I'm so glad Trump destroyed the rhino neocon wing of the Republican Party, at least at the executive level, because all they are just the shills for the uniparty establishment. It's just so disgusting. We're not just talking political accountability here. We are talking about the absolute necessity of criminal accountability for what Senator Chuck Grassley called one of the biggest political scandals and cover-ups in American history. But let's zoom out for a moment and talk about what this really means for our country and our nation, because this scandal goes far beyond Hillary Clinton or even the 2016 election. What these documents reveal is the weaponization of our intelligence agencies against a political opponent. The FBI, CIA, and other agencies were used to intentionally sabotage and undermine a presidential candidate based on fabricated intelligence created by his political opponent. This represents a fundamental threat to our democratic system. If political campaigns can coordinate with foreign billionaires like Soros and government-affiliated companies to create false intelligence operations against their opponents, then elections, frankly, are meaningless. The fact that this operation continued after Trump was elected and was used to undermine his presidency for the entirety of his first term shows this wasn't just campaign dirty tricks. This was an attempted coup using the machinery of government, the government that's supposed to be of, by, and for the people. And let's be completely honest about something the media will never admit. Here's the glorious irony in it all. Donald J. Trump was right all along. For 8 years, Trump called the Russia investigation a hoax and a witch hunt. He called it a political operation designed to undermine a duly elected president. How did the legacy media respond? How did Democrats respond? How did even some Republicans, rhino neocons like Trey Gowdy respond? They called him a conspiracy theorist. They called him a conspiracy theorist. They called all of this things like the big lie and so forth. Now we've got declassified U.S. intelligence proving that is exactly what it was. It is exactly what President Trump said it was. And therefore, Trump is absolutely right in designating the legacy media as fake news. The irony is absolutely staggering. They accused Trump of colluding with Russia while literally colluding with foreign billionaires and government-affiliated companies to create false intelligence against him. It's the very definition of projection. So, as we wait for justice, what can you do with this information in the meantime? Well, first and foremost, I humbly ask, share it. The complicit legacy media is, of course, desperately trying to bury this story, which means it's up to us to make sure the American people know the truth. I hope you recognize these aren't partisan talking points. These are declassified government documents. This is U.S. intelligence that's been verified by multiple agencies. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. So share it with friends, family, and far and wide. Secondly, contact your representatives. Demand they support the ongoing investigations. This cannot be allowed to just fade away like so many other scandals. And then for yourself, thirdly, stay informed. Follow the officials who are actually working to expose this corruption. So we got Senator Chuck Grassley, we got Attorney General Pam Bondi, we got FBI Director Kash Patel, we got Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. They're the ones who are doing the real work to restore accountability to our government. 50 years from now, when historians write about this period in American history, they are going to identify this as the moment when the truth finally came out about the biggest political scandal of our time. The Russia hoax wasn't just about one election or one presidency. It was about whether our intelligence agencies could be weaponized for political purposes. It was about whether foreign billionaires could coordinate with American political campaigns to influence our elections. It was about whether the rule of law applies equally to everyone. What we're seeing now with these declassifications is the beginning of real accountability. For the first time, we have hard evidence of what actually happened. Not theories, not speculation, but declassified intelligence that proves the conspiracy. This is so much bigger than Watergate. Watergate involved a break-in and a cover-up. This involved the entire intelligence apparatus of the United States government being used to spy on and undermine a political opponent based on fabricated evidence as coordinated by the President of the United States himself and then amplified by a compliant, lying legacy media. It was the entire establishment swamp system weaponized against Trump, and they freaking lost. They lost because of what you did on November the 5th. Here's the bottom line, and there's really no way around this. Bottom line, Hillary Clinton is in serious legal jeopardy. More and more legal analysts are admitting that. The evidence of her role in creating and coordinating the Russian hoax is now overwhelming. While Obama and Comey and Clapper and Brennan are certainly all involved as well, all these Tweedledees and Tweedledums, because they're not very smart people. While they were all certainly involved and while they certainly did their part and, if anything, made things worse, nevertheless, the buck stops with Hillary. It was Clinton who was and who is and who will always be at the center of the whole Russian collusion treasonous conspiracy. For 8 years, 8 years, they told us Trump was a Russian asset. For 8 years, they said anyone questioning the Russian investigation was spreading conspiracy theories. For 8 years, they used this hoax to undermine Trump's presidency, damage our country. Now we know. We have incontrovertible evidence that it was all of it, a total bald-faced lie. Not just wrong, not just factually inaccurate, but a deliberate, coordinated lie involving some of the most powerful people in our government and one of the world's richest men, as well as the complicity of the legacy media. Here's the good news, the wonderful news. The truth is finally coming out. The documents are declassified. The investigations are active. The evidence is overwhelming. Justice is coming. This is the beginning, not the end. And it is my commitment to you as your Patriot professor that we're going to cover every development of this historic scandal as it continues to unfold in the days ahead. It does indeed look as if the swamp is about to be drained, finally. And it's all because of what you did on November 5th. Over to you guys, over to you as our producer Micah summons your questions and super chats. I do want to talk a little bit about Medicare, right? Medicare touches the lives of millions of Americans, just like about everything the government touches. It's a mess, and mistakes could cost you thousands of dollars. Between confusing rules and penalties and thousands of different plans, it's no wonder so many people are spending more than they need because they're just stuck on the wrong plan. So that's why I want to introduce you to a genuinely helpful company called Chapter. Chapter gives you personalized Medicare advice, and they actually work for you, not the government, not big insurance. They search every plan available, even those that other agencies they skip. And by doing this, they can actually save people an average of $1,100 a year, sometimes more. In fact, Chapter was able to save one couple, Joe and his wife, $3,000 every year. Chapter's advice is completely free to my audience. No fees, no pressure, just honest help. So if you're already on Medicare or about to be, I can't recommend Chapter enough. Give them a call at 919-727-1903 to make sure your Medicare works for you. Most people wish they had called them a lot sooner. Again, that's 919-727-1903. Also, remember, I announced at the beginning of our show, but we got an awesome event coming up here on this channel. You all know I wrote my book, my brand new book, America Awaken, The Collapse of Globalism and the Rise of Faith, Family, and Freedom. We are doing a live America Awaken Masterclass, and it's now open for registrations. Normally $300 to register, but you can, as of today, get an early bird discount of just $75. So if you're part of the Courageous Patriot Club, you're going to get an even sweeter deal. So just click on that link below or take advantage of this early bird discount today. All right, what do we got? What do we got? Let's hear what you have to say. Questions, comments, you name it. ROT Corp, Dr. Turley, got my bodybuilding competition, men's physique debut tomorrow. Will be 1,486 days post-chemo. God bless you, ROT Corp. Not planning on winning, but still planning to do the best I can. Wish me luck. You bet, ROT. God be with you, and you deserve it. You deserve it more than anyone, my friend. Enjoy just being healthy and maha. Davros Doctor, to the biggest question of our age. The golden age dies if the Dominion retakes Congress in 2026. You point out a Quinnipiac poll shows 72% disapprove Democrats, but do 72% disapprove because they hate Democrat ideas or because they're foolish Dems who love terrible Dem ideas, and disapprove Democrats because Dems aren't shackling us with Democrat policies. If it's the latter, then 72% Democrat disapproval rating could actually mean Democrats are more fired up than ever to vote in 2026. Possibly, Davros. Possibly. To me, the big indicator, the key indicator for how particularly a midterm, but any election is going to turn out, the key predictive indicator is voter registration trends. We saw that in 2024. We talked a lot about it, especially with Seth Keshel, the election analyst. That's what he uses to get like almost like 100%, 99% accuracy in his election predictions. It is not so much polling. It's much more voter registration trends. And in 21 different states that put up their voter registration by party. Not all states do. So, for example, like Georgia does not have voter registration by party, as I understand. Wisconsin doesn't have voter registration by party. They'll just tell you people are voting, are registering to vote, but they're not going to tell you which party. Of the 21, 23 states that publish party-affiliated voter registration, Republicans are killing it and crushing it in literally every single one. Literally, most particularly in my backyard here in the Keystone State in Pennsylvania. They're crushing it. They're absolutely crushing it. And that trend is so important because it tends to predict how and who is going to vote in the upcoming election. So obviously people who just register to vote are more likely to vote. Right, they're intentional about it, and then how they registered will influence inordinately how they vote. It's very rare that someone registers Democrat and then turns around and votes Republican. Very rare for someone who registers Republican then turns around and votes Democrat. So Republicans are crushing it. I mean, everyone's admitting that. Harry Enton is admitting that of CNN, their data analyst. Republicans are crushing it with voter registration. That tells me, in the end, when you combine that with the purging of voter rolls, so California's already seen California saw 3.1 million voters purged from their voter rolls. They are legally required to do that in order to receive federal funds. They are legally required to purge the rolls and turn them over for auditing by federal officials, which they have. They purged 3.1 million voters from their voter rolls. So these are obviously, not people who are unqualified to vote, and so they moved away or whatever. They're not living at the actual location or whatever it is. 3.1 million purged. Kamala Harris won California by 3.2 million. Let that hit you. Now, do we have evidence that they're all Republicans? We don't. No, I do. It's not broken down partisanly. Do we have evidence that they were all or they were all Democrats? No, of course we don't. Do we have evidence that most were Democrats? No, it's anecdotal though, because Democrats overwhelmingly outnumber Republicans in California. And here's the key. That the disqualified voters who are not supposed to be voting, illegitimate voters who are not supposed to be voting in an election, if there are millions of Democrat illegitimate voters, they all vote. They all find a way of voting. They all show up at the polls. Well, better at the ballot harvesting box, whereas Republicans don't. If you're an ineligible voter and you're a Republican, generally you don't show up. You don't end up there because Republicans generally play by the rules because we like law and order. Whereas Democrats, if you're an ineligible Democrat voter, you'll vote. They'll make sure you vote some way, shape or form. So these are indicators to suggest that people really want nothing to do with the Democrats. And if anything, the nation is shifting towards MAGA and the Republicans. Troublemaker Rock Dog Dr. Steve, do you believe we will see any arrests for the Russian Gate Treaty? How many, if any, will actually be prosecuted? So they're gonna have. I do think we're gonna see arrests. I think that it's inevitable. And again, I'm just looking at legal analysts, and they're saying that there's no way around this. For maintaining the integrity of the system, they have to be arrested. Now the question is, what happens if they're indicted inside the DC Beltway? Well, there's not a court inside that corrupt swamp of a legal system the jury system there is absolutely radically left wing. They're not going to indict anybody from the Obama administration. So if you have certain charges against them, there are certain charges that allow you to try them anywhere in the country because, like illegal money wiring or something like that. If it is trans jurisdictional, then you can have them tried in any court in the country, and that hopefully is what they will do. I'd love to have them tried in the heart of Texas. That'll be awesome. So if they do it inside DC, they won't get convicted. So that's what that's what they're mulling around. Why bring indictments when you know they're just going to be acquitted by a rabid left wing, compromised jury system here in the DC circuit. So I know they're thinking that through, and that's part of the process. So, but I think we're going to see indictments. Me vida loca. I do not understand how treason, and this beyond any shadow of a doubt was treason, can be considered an official presidential act. How can what Obama did possibly qualify under presidential immunity? It's a good question. Now, bottom line, Dinesh D'Souza and others are arguing if Obama continued to be an actor in this treasonous conspiracy after his presidency, all bets are off. All bets are off. They can just nail him with that, and they won't even have to deal with bringing this in front of the Supreme Court or anything like that. But no, I'm with you. They would have to argue that this was all happening within the confines of his presidential responsibilities. Yes, and wasn't treason. He did have some other intelligence briefing, from Johnny, and he went with that suggested that this was a real Russian collusion, a real Russian collusion scare that could spell disaster for the country. They'll find some way to flip it around. The question is whether there's any evidence for it, whether the evidence is valid, that kind of stuff. So I'm with you. I don't quite know, but again, we're assuming that our institutions still have some modicum of integrity, and it's getting harder and harder to see that as this thing stretches out. Thank you, Raymond, for the super chat. Very appreciate it. Referrals, why do people always demand treason charges? Treason is a specific charge for specific offenses related to actively working with hostile foreign powers against America. Just manufacturing Russiagate isn't treason. Horrible countries arrest everyone for treason. How do we move freedom people beyond the treasonous? Well, I mean, so Tulsi Gabbard called it treasonous collusion. Was it collusion, I believe? Or conspiracy. And as I understand, conspiracy, collusion, so forth, those are one of the ones that are trans-jurisdictional in terms of where you can indict them and try them. And that's in the Constitution. So bottom line, I wouldn't go with treason. I would go with collusion or conspiracy. I forget which term it's used. I did a video on it, actually. Because that will enable them to get out of the DC circuit court system and the district and try them in the heart of Texas or something akin to that, which I think would be brilliant. Alan, is the mega base being too hard on Pam Bondi? Well, I would love to see a bunch of arrests and trials already underway. She's had a lot of excess stuff to deal with, from rogue judges, absolutely, to evaluating staff and files left from creepy pedo Joey retard's pile of dung admin. Love it. Figuring out what is fact and or deception. Add to that the breakneck pace of so much of the other things in this administration is done. The DOJ seems slow. It's only been 6 months. If they get off bigger problems. Thoughts? Yeah, I agree with you. I'm still willing to give Pam the time of day. Definitely. I think she's come. the thing is she's come through on all of the Supreme Court challenges with these rogue judges issuing those nationwide injunctions. She's beat them all down to a pulp. She's been brilliant on that. That's taken up a lot of time. And there's been a lot of, I don't know if you noticed, there's been a lot of child sex ring busts of late. Where do you think they're getting that information from? So, yeah, right. That's the real juice of Epstein right there. So there's been a lot of human trafficking, child sex trafficking rings that have been busted by Pam and by Cash. And they're doing God's work in that sense. Now, what Pam got hit with, and rightly so because of the way she handled it, was the Epstein files, particularly the original files with the notebooks where all the influencers came and looked it up, and it was basically nothing. There was nothing there, just a few pages. There, I'm willing to give it that she was thwarted by the New York office, Justice Department office. That's where Comey's daughter used to work. She's since been fired. And that's the other thing, is Pam has been firing all these swamp rats left and right. So I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt that she was sabotaged. But then when they came out and said, okay, we're dropping the investigation, nothing to see here. Epstein killed himself. He wasn't inordinately, he wasn't blackmailing people of influence, and there was really no conspiracy or anything like. That's when everyone just went like, "Come on, Pam, what the heck are you doing?" So, and they had to backtrack from that. So I think there was some definite delegitimization on a lot of people's part towards her, and we'll see. I just think right now, it's a complicated thing. I think it even looks like they sort of booby trapped the Epstein files and they planted a bunch of stuff that is untrue. That's why Trump keeps saying, make sure you publish whatever's true that's in there. But I think they planted a bunch of stuff to try to humiliate the Trump administration. And so they look like they're just trying to navigate that the best they can in a way that continues to shatter the Democrats and their immoral impulses. MAGA 24-hour, Dr. Steve. I know there's a bill introduced in Congress to take a new census, not counting illegal aliens like they did in 2020. But what are the chances of this bill passing and being done in time for 2026 election? Secondly, does Census Bureau have MAGA people in charge to perform census accurately? Yeah, so backwards, yes, I think would be certainly the case. And no, it would have to be Trump. Trump would have to issue an executive order. It's not going to go through Congress. I mean, outside of appropriation bills and just minor, little budgetary issues, funding issues, and so forth. Congress is broken. Nothing that's politically polarizing will get through the Senate filibuster. What the middle ground is that red states are not bound by redistricting councils like blue states are. Blue states redistricted in insane gerrymandered, spaghetti drawn districts all over the place. And a lot of their populations actually didn't like that. And so they created independent redistricting councils that are enshrined in their state constitutions. And those councils generally stand against any kind of redistricting efforts. And these are all primarily in blue states just because they saw a lot of the abuse. This is another way of how the red patches inside blue states were able to kind of push back a little bit by mobilizing these redistricting councils, whereas red states don't have them. So red states can redistrict all they want. Ron DeSantis looks like he's going to pass an executive order to redistrict Florida to reduce Democrats to basically 2 or 3 seats. Texas is doing the same thing, 2 to 3 seats. A number of red states are doing it. Iowa is looking like it's going to do it. North Carolina looks like they're going to do it. State after state, red state. And that may net us the seats we need to be in perpetual power, to be in power in perpetuity. Right now, Cook Political Report says if Texas redraws its map and gives us 7 new seats, 7 solid Republican seats, The Republican Party is sitting easily pretty at 217 seats. They only need 217 safe seats. They only need one seat to win back the majority. So that goes, and then that aligns with the voter registration trends that shows that voters are moving inordinately to the Republican Party as well. So you put all that together, you don't need a new census. You can wait till the 2030. The only thing where I think the drawback is when we go to 2030, if we had the right census electoral appropriation that we should have gotten in 2020, blue states would have lost double digits of electors and red states would have gained double digits of electors, somewhere like 14 electors or something akin to that. So Trump would have won by 326 electoral votes rather than 312, for example. So, in human condition, Dr. Steve, should we go back and take another look at Sidney Powell's evidence? I think she was plowed under. Maybe so. So Sidney Powell, she focused more on the espionage side of things. She focused more on the electronic side of things. Whereas what we found as the evidence came out from 2020, it was actually more, at least just what we were able to prove, it was actually more the ballot harvesting. That's where you had millions upon millions of voters who suddenly disappeared in 2024, showing up in basically 5 states. It wasn't across the country. Those 5 million voters showed up in 5 states, and they were all the swing states of Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. So, Biden underperformed in all 20 and in all 45 other states, but super performed in those 5 states. Clearly, something wasn't right, and it tended to be centered on these ballot harvesting initiatives, bought and paid for at the time by Zuckerberg. But there was concern, of course, about voting software and voting machinery, and that's where Sidney Powell went with it, and as well as with foreign involvement. And yes, it looks like it certainly looks like those two themes are coming back in spades. Richard, Dr. Steve, your thoughts about 35% tariffs on Canada? Yeah, Trump is hitting Carney hard. Honestly, I'm thinking this has a lot more to do with Alberta and Sask, Manitoba, and BC. I think he wants to see a Wexit. I think he's trying to split Canada apart. That at one level, I think that's what's going on. At another level, I think he's trying to force them more to the negotiation table. But Carney's still living in an old globalist world order that doesn't exist anymore, and so he's being stubborn. But with von der Leyen and the EU deal, and the China deal, and the Japan deal, and South Korea deal, and all these deals coming out, it's going to be harder and harder for Carney to play the recalcitrant card. Robo Guy, thank you so much for the super chat. The internet is under attack. Payment processors censoring anime and games. The UK passing a law which is silencing speech, etc. Similar things in the EU and Australia, and bills in the United States that would do the same as the UK. Yeah, we have to be careful. Yeah, we have to be very, very vigilant. It's interesting though. The technologies involving the network society and the internet and so forth. VIP system, not VIP. What is it? Not VIP. What is it? You know what I'm talking about. VPN systems. They have ways of getting around that, and they do this in China. They do this to a certain extent in Russia, Belarus, and so on. Iran. They find ways of being able to get around. It's very, very hard to. How do I put it? It's very hard to firewall the internet. China's actually done a pretty good job, and ironically, they're kind of using blockchain as a way of doing it. Blockchain is the computers, the massive decentralized computer system that is nevertheless centralized around, more or less, for lack of a better term, their national security boundaries. But But I'm with you. I do not like seeing any of that. And our elite hate free speech because, of course, they can't control it. Davros, if Obama told Comey not to bug Hillary about her mishandling of classified info, then what was Comey doing announcing he was investigating Hillary just a few days before the election? Because Hillary was pissed about Comey announcing he was investigating her further. No. What was Comey doing? No. Davros, no. Comey announced that they would not be investigating her any further. They were closing the investigation just days before the election. What made people very upset is that Comey basically detailed what she did, which was a felony, placing national security documents on her own private server. If you and I did that, we'd be in prison right now. But because she didn't intend it, because she didn't intend any harm, or she didn't quite understand the issues at hand, there was no malice, and therefore I'm not going to pursue charges. So what people got upset about is the speech was in two parts. He perfectly explained precisely why she should be indicted, and then he made up a whole new standard to exonerate her. And that's what they were upset about. But no, I mean, it was already out in the open. Her email scandal was already there for everyone to see. And it was just a matter of Comey putting a lid on it. And that's what he did. And he did it faithfully. MAGA 24 Dr. Steve, if when charges are brought against Hillary, Brennan et al., can they bring to a different court district right than D.C.? I heard one reason Durham didn't bring charges against Hillary is because he knew of the futility of getting a conviction in D.C. court. I don't buy that. Durham was hiding all this evidence from us. He could have easily declassified it and showed it to the world, and he didn't. He did everything he could to more or less bury this thing. So we talked about that. I believe it is collusion and conspiracy are trans-jurisdictional. So those are charges where you could be tried anywhere. Rock Corp, ROT Corp, Dr. Turley, I didn't ask on Monday. I didn't ask on Monday. Should we go to see the new Fantastic Four movie? I understand it leans away from wokeness, and we should reward good behavior and all. But do we want to make Hollywood suffer a little bit more to really drive home the point? Just because a criminal does a good thing, we don't end their sentence. Well, let me answer that right now. Yeah, I mean, that's up to you. Yeah, I mean, ROT, yeah, that's up to you. I went and saw it, and I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful film. Took my whole family. Well, the boys who were here, my wife, my girls are away at school. So, I loved it. It's very pro-life. It's very pro-family, pro-traditionalist family, and it didn't have a woke bone in its body. It was absolutely wonderful. So I for one think, I want to look. You're stuck with what is it? Is it the Marvel movies? Is it Disney? Right? You're stuck with the major production companies. So why not push them in directions we want them to go? Rather than, I mean, you could, Disney, Mike is telling us. So Disney has flopped and flopped and flopped. Hopefully they've learned their lesson. It's not 2020 anymore. If anything, all the movies that have come out from 2020 to 2023 or so should probably just be erased from memory. And they're recognizing now that we're in the age of normalcy returning. And that certainly, that movie underscored that. Missed opportunity to call Alberta and the others the Western Alliance of Canadians. I like that. And we could also call it WAC, W-A-C. I call the supporters wackies. I love that. Yeah, the Western Alliance. I do like that. I'm as part of the Wexit, but the Western Alliance is wonderful. I love it. Wackies. Rubber Guy, bills like the Kids Online Safety Act, Screen Act, so don't fall for it. Okay, good. It won't protect kids. It will destroy the free internet here. Yeah, that's the key, isn't it, Robo Guy? They always use, human frailty, human suffering as the veneer to hide their nefarious schemes behind. We saw it with USAID. They do it all the time. They do it with sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities literally hide criminals, and they're saying, no, we're just trying to make, your maid and the people who pick your crops and the people you go to church with feel safe. So yeah, if Trump signs those bills, his presidency is cooked. People will drop all support. Yeah, no, let's make sure they know that. Absolutely. Brian, my good friend, living my best life in Southwest Florida. Certainly there is enough in the document released to indict members of the Obama administration Clinton campaign. I remember you mentioning there might be a mechanism for moving any trial outside of D.C. Is that still the case? And so what's the likelihood of it happening? Yes, I mean, again, that's going to be part of it. There's no way they're going to go through the whole craziness of indicting them, just like with Trump in Manhattan with Alvin Bragg, Fat Alvin. They're not going to go through the whole process of indicting them and the circus around it, only to have them acquitted by mentally lunatic asylum court system in DC, jury system in particular. So as I understand it, collusion and conspiracy, they are in. I've got in my notes. I did a video on it. It's in the Constitution that they are jurisdictional, so you can try them literally anywhere, like illegal money wiring and so forth. That would be another one. Human trafficking is another one. But I think that's why Tulsi, if I recall, called it treasonous collusion, if I recall, or treasonous conspiracy. I forget which word she used. But one of those is constitutionally allowed for to try them pretty much anywhere. RoboGuy, Trump and his administration needs to denounce all censorship going on in the world and make sure it doesn't happen here. Otherwise, his golden age is over. Yes, RoboGuy, you have major point there. Yes, we got you. We do not want censorship. Also, at this point, Trump should just go full dictator and remove Thune. He's a Democrat who'll keep sabotaging, get rid of him. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I mean, again, I talked about this earlier before. Actually, where was I? I was on another show. Was it Steve Gruber on Real America's Voice? Bottom line, unfortunately, this is the way the framers, I should say unfortunately, but this is the way our framers designed the system to work. If you want fast, shock and awe action, it's the executive action, because he's got the EO, and he's got the pen, and that pen truly is mightier than the sword. And your president, Trump, has restored true constitutional presidential power. We haven't seen it in 70 years because Congress worked very hard to curb that after FDR, to curb presidential power, which they effectively more or less did. I mean, Obama showed that. Obama just walked around making speeches. He hardly did anything, if you think it through. He's just waiting for his Obamacare. He just waited for Congress to act. But it was easier then too, because they had 60 seats in the Senate. Democrats did. But in the end, you want fast, rapid, shock and awe action. It's the executive branch. He can do that. If you want that executive action enshrined into permanent law, it's got to go through a long, molasses-like, laborious process where you trudge through Congress, both the House and the Senate. And it is slow, and it's made to be slow. That's what the Senate filibusters for. So we're just watching how the sausage is made, and it just don't put any hope in Congress. What you want to do is you want to keep the White House in our hands, which after 2030, it's going to be very hard for them to win again with the reappropriation of the electoral votes, reapportionment of the electoral votes. It's going to be almost impossible. I mean, we could lose Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin in every presidential election going forward from 2030 and still win 270. I mean, it's just because my colleague, Brian Edgett, so many electoral votes are moving and following the population into deep red states like Florida, and they're becoming redder and redder, ruby red, right? Texas and so forth. They're both picking up 4 more electoral seats. So yeah, I just think in the end, we need to focus on keeping the White House in perpetuity. And if we do that, we're going to have, there's really not much Congress can do. We'll be appointing Supreme Court justices for the foreseeable future. So we'll have 9 Sam Alitos or 9 Justice Thomases on the Supreme Court eventually. And things will be good. So don't worry so much. Don't freak out too much about the Senate and the House of Representatives. It's just they're just there to kind of trudge along and come along for the ride, and eventually, hopefully, enshrine this stuff. Terry, Trevor Noah has suggested what I suspect, that Trump has possessed these facts since the actual events and withheld them for this long so their release would have maximum effect. But I point out something everyone's missing. The Russians were intervening against Trump, not for him. Good. Could Trump have been trying to convince citizen Putin one more chance to cooperate with him on Ukraine, Israel, and the Arctic? And when Putin blew it, Trump said, okay, you asked for it. Maybe that's a good question. I haven't put the collusion hoax together with Trump's current strategy towards Eurasia and Putinism. I think you're right. Trevor Noah, I think is right on. I don't think this timing is coincidental. I think Trump has said he had 4 years in the wilderness to plan this out. And then after J13, after God spared his life, he believed he had a divine call to carry this out. So they have been mapping out these 4 years to be the single greatest 4 years like ever. It'll be a presidency we'll be talking about centuries from now. And and it seems to me he wanted to fundamentally reshape border security, economic security, and cultural security over the first 6 months. And then the next 6 months will be trade, international diplomacy, and remaking the world map in a civilizationalist world, and then exposing the deep state. So I think that's where we are. I think that's right. Now, how that fits together with the rising civilizationalist world, we'll have to see. That's a very, hold me accountable to that, because I love that, the connection you're making there. Yes, and it seems like the Russians did not want Trump in. They saw America as weak, and as America could be controlled with these idiots in charge, and they do see them as idiots. They're all from the northeast families, private school families, Kent, Connecticut families, New England families, even the Bushes. The Bushes were New England family that moved down to Texas and brought all of George Herbert Walker Bush brought all of his CIA connections, military industrial complex connections, and then married them together with Texas Oil. And that's how the Bushes became associated with Texas and Texas politics. But they're from they've got a house up in Maine. They're from freaking New England, So I think, Putin saw America as incredibly weak with these globalist leaders. And he was freaked out with Trump. He was like, oh crap, Trump coming in, that I don't, we're not going to be able to get away with stuff with Trump. So anyway, but by the same token, I think they admire each other as well, because they both see the world civilizationally. Davros, Dr. Turley, will you be reading 170? I think what's the zombie movie? Isn't it like 29 days? It's 107 days. The book that Commondale Harris wrote. I think I might read it just for the heck of it, right? I love to read the inside story of their failures and defeats. How about you? Oh, Davros, you have more patience than I do. That's for sure. Oh gosh. No, seriously, when I saw that 177 days, I thought of there's a zombie movie, right? It was like 28 days later or something like that. Now I think it's 28 years later. So that's what I thought of it. Just the zombie, the Kama apocalypse or something like this. All Our producer Micah said this has been suggested as a fantasy football punishment for the loser of the league. I've heard that. People are actually now, they are threatening to use 107 days as punishment for something. So if you lose whatever it is, or if you get a bad grade in school, you have to actually sit there and read 107 days as punishment. That's hilarious. She's such a clown. Maximilian, the future belongs to those with new and better ideas. How do new ideas come about? And how can we systematize generating them? Oh my, oh my. I think the new ideas, I'm a firm believer that new idea, and I've actually read a very interesting article on Elon Musk with this. I'm a firm believer that new ideas come from something called the moral imagination. And the moral imagination is a mental map of reality that's able to interpret the world in light of the great myths of old, like the hero's journey and so forth. So Jordan Peterson would argue that we cannot think apart from myth. We all have myths in and myths are just meta narratives, like the story that defines all the other stories. And it's a foundational story. So in the Western civilization, that would be the Bible, for example. The biblical stories are the stories by which all the other stories make sense, and it's structured. We hate slavery because of the Exodus, right? Slavery is something we're supposed to be liberated out of, for example. If we had if we had a different story about that, right, we would have had a different value system that came out of it. And what Peterson argues is that we're able to organize all the myriad gazillions and gazillions of bits of data that are always surrounding us at every minute. We organize them in accordance with a value hierarchy, in accordance with rules, understandings, and goals that are considered sacred and absolute. We've talked a lot about that, Maximilian. And so, like, the example I like to give is if I'm driving, my eyes could be looking quite literally anywhere, because everywhere around me, there is data that can take my attention. But unless I have the value of safety and the value of arriving at a destination, it's that which ends up shutting out what is peripheral to my eyes as less important to what's in front of my eyes, what's in front of me. That becomes more important. So meta narratives create a value hierarchy, and then the data gets organized around that value hierarchy. And what we find is that the most ingenious ideas tend to come from literally geniuses who have extraordinary imaginative capacities. Their map of the world organizes the data in such a way where they can solve extraordinary problems. But again, there's got to be a value system that prioritizes certain data over others to see that. And so there have been articles, look it up, Elon Musk and the moral imagination, or the moral imagination of Elon Musk, things like that, or the moral imagination of Einstein, or the moral imagination of Mozart and Bach. That the moral imagination seems to be key. Now, how do you systematize generating that? I mean, you have to feed your moral imagination. That's one, obviously. So what is that? That's good literature. This is why it's so important. This is why, by the way, wokeness and postmodernism could be so horrible in its sense, by relativizing everything as just, all just cultural constructs with no superiority over the other. This is why good literature and art and architecture and music and poetry and drama are so important. They're so important because they shape the moral imagination. So reading good literature, listening to good music, and again, what do we mean by good? Timeless. That's the key. The moral imagination gets connected to values and meta narratives that are eternal by nature. So this is the difference between. This is where I get into a little trouble with my Christian friends, where they worship to contemporary music that will be, quote, old in a matter of 5 years. And my problem is that the sense of eternity is not embedded in the music. The music is not conveying eternity. You would know it's conveying eternity if it was always fresh, always new, always renewed, like classical music tends to do, or classical liturgy tends to be. A cathedral is a symbol to eternity. A cathedral stands forever. A storefront congregation doesn't. It's temporary. It's practical. It's pragmatic. Now, this is not to totally dismiss storefront congregations, right? Or mall congregations of malls or movie theaters. It's not to dismiss them. Great and wonderful things can happen. God is everywhere, working amazing things in amazing ways. Absolutely. But when we're thinking about culture and civilization, that's when things like how do you instantiate and embody eternity comes in. And you do it through music, art, architecture, literature, poetry, drama, and so forth, liturgy, that by its nature never dies and never loses its relevance. So you shape the moral imagination by coming in contact with the literature, art, architecture, music, poetry that lasts forever, because it's just as valid today as it was 1,000 years ago. And then what that does is that shapes a value system in your imagination that is able to order data, what we find just in the most precise and ingenious ways. And then that's able to give you these amazing ideas and solutions and so on. So there you go. The troublemaker, rock dog, Dr. Steve. If it's not Ebola or the Hildebeest tried for treason, then who would they put on trial? The head of the snake must be cut off. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, again, we'll have to see what they try them with. But yes, they're going to have to be. That's why I do believe we're going to see. We're going to see Hillary indicted. We'll have to see with Obama just because of just the ambiguities surrounding presidential immunity. Brian, what charges that Clinton will face are within the statute of limitations? That's a good question. I don't know that. I'll have to look that up. That's very good. It's a very, very good question, actually. Statute of limitations. William O2, to encourage religion and education, do you see President Trump providing tax credits for parents who send their kids to religious schools? Well, he's talked about that. I mean, he wants to see overall school choice as the default federal position of education. So make it a big competition. So you get public schools, you have private schools, you have parochial schools, you have it all. And obviously, I think the classical schools, the homeschooling, all that sort of stuff will probably win that competition. Certainly in a sort of a K-8 structure. So, but yeah, no, I think he has talked about that. And Pete Hegseth as well, the Secretary of Defense, is a huge, huge proponent for precisely that. Mitchell, do you honestly believe anyone consequent will be arrested, let alone stand trial? Yeah, no, I'm going by, well, again, watch out for that little cynicism there. I'm detecting a little sarcasm there from you, Mitchell. It's the golden age. You got to throw that out, man. Amazing things are happening here. No, I'm literally going by what the people in charge are talking about in terms of, Pam Bondi and Tulsi and Cash and so on. I'm going by what legal analysts are saying is happening here behind the scenes, particularly. We're getting word that Hillary and Comey and Clapper and Brennan are all lawyering up as we speak. So the trends seem to be, and then of course you look at the evidence that I laid out for you. It's pretty cut and dry. This was treasonous conspiracy when all said and done at the highest level. So it seems like it is moving in that direction. Yeah, and keep in mind, Mitchell, who did they indict 4 times? Do you think that guy's going to just sit around and go, don't worry about it? That's why I played that original clip at the beginning of the live stream. The original clip was Trump saying, yeah, in 2017, I'm like, yeah, leave her alone. Yeah, we could lock up Hillary, but, just for the sake of the peace of, the unity of the country, leave her alone. He's like, now they indicted me. And now I don't feel that way anymore. I ain't going to leave her alone no more. So. Movie Dog, didn't Hillary say if she went down, everyone was going down? Or did someone just make that up? I thought I heard that. So even before we went live today, I was looking for the origin of that comment and I couldn't find it. So yes, that is out there. If I go down, I'm taking everyone down with me. But I haven't found the origin. I couldn't verify it, so I didn't use it. Cody, curious about what you really think about Bill Maher. To me, he's always seemed like a bitter, miserable, and hateful person. I mean, I don't know. My thing with Bill Maher, I hear where you're coming from. And you certainly are not unreasonable in those conclusions. My thing with Bill Maher is he's a progressive realist. And he's just, until Chris Cuomo looks like he's coming out of his progressive realism. I don't know if you've noticed that of late. That's fascinating. I'd love to talk with Chris sometime. Just curious, just where he is and all that, coming from literally a Democrat dynasty up in my old neck of the woods in New York. I grew up in Connecticut. And I grew up with Cuomo right next to us, and Connecticut's a tiny little state compared to New York and New York City. We're in the greater New York area, so Cuomo was always a huge name for me growing up. And even he now is saying, I've been so wrong in so many ways about politics, about ideology, about all kinds of things. So he seems to have broken through this thing called progressive realism. Whereas I don't see Maher having done that yet. Maher is still a progressive realist. What progressive realism believes is that the arc of history inevitably bends towards liberalism. I've read Brian Edgett, my colleague from Eastern University. I mean, he could share this with you. Talking to our colleagues there. There's sort of an unspoken rule that life is liberal. And I've actually read an article once, I'll never forget it, by a history professor, I forget from where. And he was answering the question, why are academics, particularly history professors, why are we always so liberal? Why are often so liberal? And his answer was very simple, because reality is liberal. And he said, as a historian, when I look at history, I see a movement, an epical movement from century to century to century of more and more liberation. More and more populations are liberated from traditions and religions and customs and cultural obstructions, and political obstructions and economic obstructions and racial obstructions and on and on and on. And there is this liberationist theme that connects all of history. So all of history is moving towards the liberal goals, which of course have become absurd. They've become insane, like trans athletes in women's sports and the like, and transitions of kids, and they've become frank, and what is a woman, and they become nuts. But regardless, there is this notion that history naturally bends, the arc of history naturally bends towards the liberal and the liberal sentiment and the liberal understanding of reality. And that's Bill Maher. That's Bill Maher. So in the meantime, he can admit the Democrats have been wrong, Democrats have screwed up this, Democrats have screwed up that, and so forth. But in the end, Democrats and the liberal left are innocent until proven guilty, because they represent reality. They represent where the world is going. Whereas Republicans are the obstructionists of reality, and therefore they are guilty until proven innocent. And that's, in effect, what a progressive realist is. That's what has taken over our legacy media industry entirely. They are all progressive realists. And And up until recently, it was the faith of Washington, D.C., and now it's being replaced increasingly with MAGA, Make America Great Again, and civilizationalism. The world isn't moving towards liberalism. The world is returning to more of an archaeo-future, archaeo-modernist conceptual world where tradition and technology work together. Because liberalism is rooted in the notion that technology is opposed to tradition, that science is opposed to religion, and to the extent, like if you're in the Episcopal Church, if you are religious, you're going to bring religion up in alignment with liberal goals and scientific norms. Sedition and collusionism. I love it. Thank you, Arhi. Thank you for the gift. Cody, several weeks ago, you mentioned the Republican Party is inherently dysfunctional. I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit more. Yeah, so it's easy. So contrast it with the Democratic Party. Democratic Party is absolutely cohesive in terms of their ultimate goals. What are their ultimate goals? They want to expand the government. They want to increase your taxes. They want to increase government control and regulation. The old narrative, the old quip is liberals don't care what you do. Democrats don't care what you do as long as it's mandatory, right? Now that you have different factions. You got the progressive wing. You've got the more traditionalist kind of, liberal establishment wing. You've got your pro-Palestinians, your pro-Israelis. You got different, they'll clash here or there. You got your Schumers, your AOCs. But in the end, they all want bigger government. They all want more regulations. They all love Mamdani in one way, shape, or form, whether they want to admit it or not. He's just saying explicitly what they all kind of implicitly want. When it comes to the Republicans, you actually have different goals. You have diverging goals. You have a wing that wants to decrease government. You have a wing that actually wants to increase it, not necessarily everywhere, but definitely in their pet projects. You have a wing that wants to cut taxes across the board. You have another wing that says, yeah, we can cut taxes here or there, but not across the board. No, I don't want it here. I don't want it there. You have one wing that wants to cut spending dramatically. You have another wing that actually wants to increase spending. One wants to cut government, roll back government. The other one wants to grow government. So what Mike Johnson and John Thune have almost the impossible task of doing is trying to bring together, the likes of Rand Paul with Lisa Murkowski, or Ted Cruz with Susan Collins, and it's very hard. It's not easy. The Republican Party has conflicting goals. There are some that just really want to roll back government, but there are others who like government and kind of want to keep it the same. They just want it to manage a little better. And whereas the Democrats, they're all in on growing government. So that's the dysfunctionality that I was talking about. Renata, will MAGA stop blaming Trump for Epstein? Yeah, eventually. Yeah, they'll move on. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be an issue for the midterms. I know there are a lot of doomers and gloomers, but I don't think so. BWY 553, shoot, had to come back. Do you think Texas news seats work? It could backfire if Latino voters, mad deports. Also, Newsom is also trying to do 2 to 6 seats in California. Newsom is hampered by a committee for redistricting, a redistricting committee that's enshrined in their constitution. So he can't do anything. The redistricting committee isn't moving on it. It will not be done by the midterms. No, Texas will do it. The Latino vote has been moving right, and it looks pretty secure. So yeah, it'll be huge. Again, according to the Cook County. So my daughter's in Chicago, and the Cook political report. If they put in those 7 new seats, the Republicans are sitting at pretty safe 217 seats. They just need one more, and they're good to go. Needs more cello. What is that? Pranakasha Productions needs more cello. Needs more cello. Needs more cello. I don't know. Is that? I don't know where that's from. Roboguy, is it weird I tolerate Russia more than China? Not a fan of some things that they do, but I swear they seem less authoritarian than China, in my opinion. Wish they were an ally and said, yeah, no, well, Russia's Christian. Yeah, at least we have that. Russia is an ancient 1,000-year Christian civilization. It's the largest Orthodox civilization in the world. And it's the third largest Christian nation in the world: United States, Brazil, Russia. So no, absolutely. I think Russia should definitely be an ally. No question about it. China's different. China's Confucian society. It uses the ancient system Tianxia, which is the mandate of heaven, and the harmony of the cosmos is centered in China. It's centered in Beijing. And so they will naturally see themselves as superior to every other civilization, as I understand it. Upshoot, congrats on the great deal with the EU. Oh, and thank you for the euro. I wonder how it will affect the German economy and the rest of Europe as well. God bless President Trump. Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as you've got the likes of a Merz or Schultz or all those clowns, it's. I agree with Elon. Only the AfD can save Germany, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works. I mean, it just doesn't look like the EU really did much to benefit their citizens. It really seemed to be more. Some were calling it. What were they calling it? A tribute to the king, to make sure he didn't abandon them in their attempt to try to draw the United States further into the Ukrainian conflict. We'll have to see how it plays out for sure. But I would love to see, I keep, as you know, upshoot or UP shoot. I try to stay abreast as much as possible on the rise of AfD, because I do believe they can restore a sense of civilizational normalcy to Germany. Tucker, you probably saw, had a very good interview with German journalist, just basically excoriating him for his globalism and saying, what is your problem embracing and celebrating this unique, amazing, glorious German culture that's given us some of the greatest literature, art, architecture, music, science, and economics imaginable, and innovation and industry and so forth. I mean, Germany is Europe in terms of the economy. If Germany falls, Europe falls. So, we're keeping an eye on that. I really, really want to see Germany rise again. That's for sure. Feed the creativity by bringing back art shop home economics in the schools. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's so you have what's called the liberal arts, but then you have what's also called the servile arts. And that's one of the things we do at the Worldview Academy, is that we want students not only to be cultivating moral imagination, but we also want them being able to cultivate a sense of culture and building things and being industrious and the like. And so that's why the servile arts are complemented. That's why the liberal arts are complemented by the servile arts. Classically speaking, it's blacksmithing and the like. And that's it. All right, guys, you have a wonderful weekend. I will be your back porch professor, so make sure you have your whatever you want, your lemonade, your brewski, your beer, a nice glass of wine. We'll be hanging out on my back porch. Weather permitting later on today, I'll probably have a couple of videos for you up today, but definitely over the weekend, tomorrow night and Sunday. Again, weather permitting, it's been pretty rainy out here in the Northeast, mid-Atlantic. So weather permitting, I will see you out on my back porch. We're going to have some more wonderful, enriching conversations. Love you guys. God bless.